a nice, warm reception on this bright Friday morning. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for that very warm welcome. You know, the founding fathers got it right when they said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life from conception, and the pursuit of happiness. You see, the founding fathers got it right because they put it in that order for a reason. In this great country of ours, you can pursue happiness all you want to, as long as you don't infringe upon somebody else's liberty. And you've got all of the liberties that our Constitution guarantees as long as you don't infringe upon the life of somebody else, and that includes the unborn.
Yes.
This nation has become a nation of crises. We have an economic crisis. We have an entitlement spending crisis. We've got an energy crisis. We've got an immigration crisis. We've got a faulty foreign policy crisis. And we've got a moral crisis in this nation. Because as it turns out, this nation was founded upon godly principles. It was those godly principles that inspired the Declaration of Independence. And the Declaration of Independence inspired the Constitution of the United States of America. And one of the reasons that we have this moral crisis today is because too many people are trying to take God out of our culture, little by little. One of my guiding principles has been and always is, if you want to solve a problem, work on the right problem. I know that might sound like common sense, but unfortunately a lot of people have lost common sense and they can't find it again. You work on the right problem. And those that believe taking the life of an unborn is a choice have gotten away from those godly principles. Whenever we have a president who intentionally omits, endowed by their Creator, I have a problem with that. Whenever someone has a group of children reciting the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of a major golf championship, and they leave out the phrase, under God, I have a problem with that. I was watching that U.S. Open tournament. One of the few days I had an opportunity to sit in my favorite comfortable blue recliner while my wife was preparing the Sunday dinner because the kids and the grandkids were coming over. And right at the beginning of watching the U.S. Open, because I do enjoy golf, I haven't been able to play any golf lately, like somebody else. I'm trying to take his job. Fathers didn't put it in originally because some nitpicky reporter is going to come back and say that it didn't happen with the founding fathers. I know that it happened in 1953 when we were trying to send a message to the rest of the world that God is part of our culture. Yeah. Somebody a headline ain't doesn't know where I'm going. Save your ink. They got it right. way we're going to protect the unborn in the future in this nation is to let's work on the right problem. And that is to get God back in our culture. We had another moral crisis in the 1950s and the 60s. It was called the Civil Rights Movement. We can learn something from that moral crisis. Why was it a moral crisis? Because even though the Declaration said all men are created equal, America had to work up to that ideal. It took us a while, but we got there by changing the hearts of men, and then that changed the minds of men and led to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Our task in this fight to protect the unborn is to first change the hearts, and then we will be able to change some minds. That moral crisis had a leader by the name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was a great leader. He not only changed the hearts of this nation, but the hearts of the world. And he was a great leader because he changed the hearts and minds and changed this nation nonviolently. That's great leadership. So as we all have to be leaders in this fight to protect the unborn. My challenge to you is we cannot just push back. We have got to fight back. Isn't that serious? Now, another report is going to say he's advocating violence. No, I'm not. We fight back with our voices and our votes. Yes. That's where our power lies. In order to get back to these godly principles. And one of the things that we can do with our voices is to let young women know about alternatives to these so-called Planned Parenthood facilities. And I say so-called because many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. There are alternatives. And the way we change the hearts and minds is we have to inform and educate people. Let them know about resources like the one in Dallas, Texas, where I visited, called The Source for Women. When young women show up there, the first option isn't get an abortion. The first option at the Source for Women is counseling to show these young ladies the alternatives to abortion. While I was visiting there several months ago, there happened to have been a young lady there with her new baby. She had gone in there looking for an abortion, but the counselors were able to change her heart, and then she changed her mind. When you see these blessed babies that might not have been in this world, it causes you to remember that only God can give life and only God can take life away. My message is quite simple. You know, as believers, most of us want to push back. We are beyond just pushing back. We've got to fight back strongly with our voices and our votes. And in 2012, we've got some voting to do because one of the other crises we face in this country is a severe deficiency of leadership. And in 2012, we've got to change that leadership in the White House with our vote. of leadership that we have by putting someone in the White House who believes in these godly principles. Because in addition to being able to fight legislation that's trying to creep its way through Congress that funds abortions and other things that we don't agree with, the president who takes over in 2012 is going to have an opportunity to appoint judges at the federal level and the Supreme Court level. That's working on the right problem, which heightens the sense of urgency that we must have in this fight with our voices and our votes. And the unborn, we have to be their voices. We have to be the ones who vote for them in 2012. Benjamin E. Mays, the late president of Morehouse College, who was president at Morehouse College when I was a student there, used to remind the young men of Morehouse of this very precious thing called life, and just how precious it is, and just how short it is. When he said, life is just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon you, can't refuse it. Didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to you to use it. You must suffer if you lose it. Give an account if you abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but our eternity is in it. In God we trust, and in God is our trust.